El Nino focus, and with the details, here is Jeff.
Each year, the hurricane season is affected by many different factors. Does this year's El Nino play a role in the 1997 hurricane season? It depends on the region. It has influenced the Atlantic hurricane season somewhat, but not as much as some people would think. The average Atlantic season results in 9 or 10 named storms, 6 of those becoming hurricanes. This year, 7 named storms have formed. 3 of the 7 are hurricanes, and 1 a major hurricane. In an average year, we would expect 2 major hurricanes, but the season doesn't end until November 30th. The effect of El Nino on the eastern Pacific hurricane season is less clear-cut. The average season consists of 16 named storms, with 9 of those hurricanes. At this time, we've had 16 named storms and 8 hurricanes. But the category which is above average, major hurricanes.
Ordinarily, on an average year, we look for about 4 major hurricanes. This year, we've already had 6, and 2 of those were extremely powerful hurricanes, Guillermo and Linda. Linda had top winds of 185 miles an hour, and that is the most powerful hurricane that we've ever seen in the East Pacific.
The end result? El Nino may not contribute to more storms in the Pacific, but it might be responsible for a few more major hurricanes in this region. I'm Janetta Jones, the Weather Channel.
Join us every evening for El Nino Focus right here on the Weather Channel. Now let's check on tomorrow's forecast. It's a wet one in the east. Here's Warren.
It is a wet one in the east. We have a coastal storm forming here off of the coast of North Carolina, and it'll be spreading rain from Philadelphia and Washington, D.C. up in toward New York City by the morning. Boston, you may get through the morning commute all right, but by midday, we're seeing the rain and the winds reach up into eastern New England, and by the afternoon, it's going to be a wet one from Boston on down to New York City, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C. still seeing some scattered showers, and perhaps some showers also heading back into Cleveland and over toward Pittsburgh underneath our upper level system.
WeatherScope.
Low pressure off the East Coast, headed up the East Coast toward New York City and Boston, but it'll move slowly.
Yep.
A lot of wind.
Yep.
A lot of rain. Good evening, I'm Dave Schwartz.
So I'm going to prolong the agony, though, because it's going to be windy and rainy instead of just, boom, getting it over with.
Couple of days into the weekend.
Days.
That's a shame.
That's the worst part. So that trek into White Plains, maybe into New Canaan tomorrow.
Where was it today?
Today it was much further south. Places like Atlanta, Georgia had the rough trek to work with. The temperatures kind of holding kind of cool all day. Only upper 40s about the best you did all day long. Had to put the old rain gear on there and make that long trek across that big walkway to work. All kinds of rain around Atlanta, Georgia, and stay kind of wet and soggy, damp most of the day. Looks like here could come another one like the other one with more wet weather. Northeast, well, things are changing. You're getting a taste of it. Here's the problem. There's a big glob of wet weather. What's the deal? Upper level area. That's one of the upper level area of low pressure. That's way up there. One of the best ways to get a good indication of that is going to be to have a look at the water vapor imagery. Now look for a big swirl, look for something that looks like a comma, look for something moving in counterclockwise fashion. Okay, your eye's drawn right there. That's it. Upper level low is kind of a moisture magnet. Pulling in the moisture, you can see some of the best moisture here over the Atlantic. Hey, guess what? Boom, northeast. That's where it's coming from tomorrow, plus all this mess. Look at this, wet weather tonight. Yeah, you can even see the circulation here. Indiana, Tennessee, the kind of one of the pivot points has been kind of swirling around to you. Nashville, Laverne, Gallatin, around Mount Juliet. It's just been wet and going to be holding that way for a while. Pittsburgh, even Tallahassee, Florida has been wet throughout the night, getting drier around FSU now, on to central parts of Florida. Maybe trying to head down toward Tampa. You could see some rain, but you get about Ocala on. Not as wet, making that trek. Savannah, Georgia, kind of a wet night in progress tonight. A little water headed toward the Battery here in Charleston. Central parts of North Carolina, include the Research Triangle here, looking kind of wet too around Roanoke. Even as I mentioned, back toward Nashville, Tennessee, kind of on the wet side. Showers times around Lexington, Kentucky, even southern parts of Indiana. I've seen rain off and on. Not all of this making in the ground. Some of it has been evaporating. Some light showers here, maybe around Bloomington, on toward Columbus, even around Cincinnati at times. It's been a bit wet. Here's some of the real thing, though. Look at this. Pretty good glob of wet stuff headed towards you there in Pittsburgh. Right now, kind of some wet weather for Allegheny County there around Philly. A lot of wet weather just immediately to the west of town. Atlantic City, showery. Look at this tour of the city on the island here. Boom, here it comes. Hartford, Providence, Boston. Just a matter of time before this all moves up there. A lot of moisture kind of overrunning the warm front there. Temperature's not doing too bad. 50 to Philly, 50 in the city, and 49 to Boston. The temperature's not really the thing. The wind is going to be hit. Anywhere you see the orange shading, like Fenwick Island onto Watch Hill, and a bit above that too, some gale warnings, but some storm warnings in effect here from Watch Hill to Chatham. Just quite wet and quite windy throughout this region. We'll stay on top of it for you here at the Weather Channel. Let's talk about actions in the west. With that, here's Dave.
Paul, on the west coast, we had the wet, not so much wind, and some spots got over an inch of rain. One of those was not Seattle. We did have about a quarter of an inch of rain, however, in Seattle. It was a gray day, as you can see here. The view across Lake Washington. Beautiful scenes, folks taking the ferry across the Sound, jogging, walking, umbrellas, no umbrellas. This is the beginning of the wet season in the Pacific Northwest. We're used to it. We've got cloudy skies, some light rain, and the wind 10 to 15 miles an hour in spots, a little stronger north. Where is that guy going? North of Seattle, up here in Skagit County, and in Snohomish County. Here in King County, we've got some light rain. In Seattle, as you can see, right over town. Looks like the south side of town, but maybe at your place in Capitol Hill it's raining. Just cloudy and dreary. Some fog and drizzle toward morning. That would just about be it. Some heavier rain down toward Toledo and Vancouver, Washington, right over the river from Portland, the Columbia River right in here. And in Portland, we've got a wet track on the Banfield Freeway, headed out toward the east side of town right now. And some more rain on the Columbia Gorge Highway and down into the Mid-Willamette Valley. A few sprinkles. Earlier, some very heavy rain in Brookings, Oregon, over an inch and a half of rain. It's raining in the Sierra Nevada mountains, too. Fortunately, just rain if you're heading over Donner Pass on I-80. Just some rain showers, maybe a rumble of thunder with which to deal. That is just about it. There's some very high snow levels. Even up here in the Washington Cascades, the snow level is above pass level, up at 5,500 feet. Mild air to the east of this system, and where we had sunshine, boy, was it mild. 73 in Boise. These are record highs for the day. Ely, Nevada, Great Falls, Montana, Rawlins, Wyoming. Areas where you might think cold this time of year were mild. 69 in Great Falls, Montana, while the high temperature in Atlanta was 49. 20 degrees cooler, way below average under the clouds here. Even with sunshine, we were below average here in Oklahoma City, too. But some of this relatively warm air is going to be heading east. There's your warm front into the eastern sections of the high plains here in Montana and Wyoming, and eventually it'll get a little milder in Chicago and Detroit. but not too warm and not for too long. We'll have that forecast coming up right after this.
Here's a good question. Has this year's El Nino been influenced by the 1997 hurricane season or been an influence on it? Kind of depends on exactly what region you examine. That would be the Atlantic or the Eastern Pacific. Janetta Jones has the answer in tonight's edition of El Nino Focus.
Each